Bulldogs, just you can tell what Brock has meant to you guys and your program, and the culture Kirby has established in Athens is what?
Yeah, well, Brock's been one of the best tight ends I've seen come out probably in my entire career. And, we drafted Tyke in Tampa last year, and we had a bunch of Georgia guys in the room last night too. And the way that those guys, how prepared they are, how passionate they are about football, how smart they are, how intelligent they are at football really stands out. I mean, Pete and I just couldn't stop talking about it last night. I mean, they're just such an impressive group of people, both the person and the football player. So I'm happy that we have Brock for a long time.
I apologize about that.
You're good, Honda.
Can you talk about your free agents? You got a lot of them. Have you done enough evaluating now that you know your plan, what you want to do with each?
I wouldn't say we know the 100% plan. We're working on that right now with Tom Delaney and the scouting department. We obviously played the Raiders this year, so I know the roster well. I think we've got kind of a loose plan in place. We're still spending a lot of time with Pete and the coaches to make sure everything aligns up, and we've got spots for them and it makes sense, and trying to get a sense for what's important to the player, both from a position standpoint and from a contractual standpoint. So we're working through that. We still got 2.5 weeks here to figure all that stuff out.
How did your time with the Broncos help you get to this position right now?
Well, we won a Super Bowl there, so that probably helped. And, I had such a great experience there. I was just telling Will, it was really hard for me to leave Denver and take a great job in Tampa with this guy talking over here right now. Getting a chance to be around a first-class organization like the Broncos was amazing, with the way the Bolin family ran that place, to be around John Elway every day, to see Peyton Manning. That was the first time that I was around these elite quarterbacks in my entire career. I'd been around some really good ones, but two of the greatest of all time, in my opinion. So to see every day what it looked like, to 2013, where you have this amazing offense and then flip it just with a couple acquisitions and have a great defense was awesome too. So just the whole experience, to try to learn as much as I could from some great people, and grateful to that organization forever for taking me. Yeah.
Talk about that, why you wanted him.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked about him. I think it's as important of a hire as I could make. Mark and I really had a connection when I was there for those 3 years. It might stem from our love of golf together and the amount of times we played Inverness back then. But his knowledge across an organization is really amazing to me. His vision, his ingenuity, the innovation he thinks that we can install it with the Raiders is going to be great. And he's a nice calming presence for me. He's structured, he's organized. I can be a little bit kind of freewheeling and instinctive sometimes, and so he's a little bit of a nice balance to me. So I'm really grateful that he thought enough of this opportunity to join us.
Your history, whether it's in Denver or Tampa Bay, veteran quarterbacks have come in: Peyton Manning, Baker Mayfield, Tom Brady. Is that an avenue that you guys are actively looking at in terms of your quarterback position?
Not to be kind of cliched here, but any avenue where we can find a quarterback, we're going to explore. So, obviously there's free agents. We have some guys in the building that we want to give a chance to compete, and, working with Coach and with Chip and Ole and, the whole offensive staff, we're just going to try to find as many guys as we can to load that room up and have a great competition there.
I'm old enough to remember covering you in high school.
Oh boy.
So, Bill Forever Young and Catholic Memorial.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you, and how did it get you here today?
It was at a formative years in my life in high school football. I was 30-4 in my high school career, I think. Won a state championship, semis 2 other times. Guys going D1 out of that program all the time. I learned what winning looked like. I said this at my press conference. I'm forever grateful to Coach. I learned what winning looks like, toughness looks like. The old school tough love, drink from the PVC pipe with the water, have a peanut butter sandwich and go back out there and do it again for 2 hours. He toughened us all up, and, I love him to death. He runs a great program. His love of the game has driven him to stay in it for so long and change as the game has changed and evolved, which I have an immense amount of respect for. And, I wouldn't be standing here today if I hadn't made that decision to go to Catholic Memorial.
People talk about this draft class for the running backs being pretty deep. Do you agree with that? And what traits do you look for as a GM that would fit with what the Raiders are doing?
I think there's a lot of really good players at that position, yeah. And I think it's a really critical position as well. You saw what the Eagles did this year, right? Saquon is a different animal, but the emphasis on the run game and the physicality that comes with it. And, for running backs, I mean, I think people get really caught up on speed, and which is great. If you can find Chris Johnson that runs 4.28 or whatever you ran and nobody can catch him, awesome. But to me, it's more about the guys that have great instincts, great vision, that are hard to get on the ground. If they can run 4.3s, even better. But I've seen a lot of great runs that run the 4.5s and 4.6s that are just hard to tackle, and they set the tone for the team. So we're looking for that. It's a mix of experience, and Gardner's done a lot of good things in his career too. Aiden O'Connell showed some quality stuff in his opportunities as well. So, I haven't seen much of Bradley. So, we're going to see if those guys are where we need to head, or if we got to add to it. But we got to win more games too.
Earlier this week, you re-signed Isaiah Palomalo. Can you just talk about what went to that decision, and also how much of a priority is it to also kind of talk to some of those other guys in the locker room and re-sign them pretty soon?
Yeah, we don't want to let any good players walk out of our building, especially young players. And Isaiah was a guy that, given an opportunity last year when Marcus got hurt, really stepped up and played well. And I think there's you got to give a lot of respect to a young kid that's undrafted and has a chance to get thrust into the starting lineup. And next thing you know, he's playing at a good level. And we noticed it in Tampa. And talking to the coaches, PG that was here, thought he was critical. I spent some time talking to a couple of the other players in the locker room, and they had a lot of really positive things to say about him. And I think for Isaiah and for the Raiders, it made a lot of sense to do this deal. And hopefully, this is just a starting point for him.
What is your vision for you and Coach Carroll for what a Raider looks like, what a Raiders team looks like?
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't start with compete. That's been his central thing. But I think, we're going to have a lot of positive energy. The guys that love to compete and play with passion are going to have a chance at our place. And the guys that maybe don't have that love of the game, they like it, it's a means to an end, there probably won't be as many places or spaces for them at our place. I think we want to set the tone with our film. People watch a week, 2 out for our games coming, they want to know, this is going to be a battle. This is going to be physical. This is going to be old school football. And, are we made for this? I mean, that's what ultimately this game comes down to. I think, am I willing to play harder, longer than the guy lining up across from me, the team lining up across from me? And if you're not, then I want to be the space that's where the Raiders live in. And that's served me well over my career.
Could you address your draft philosophy of best player available, need? What's your philosophy overall, general?
Yeah, I don't go down that route too much. I think that's too siloed off. I mean, I think we're going to make the best decision for the Raiders. And yes, we're not going to pass on, elite talent because we maybe have a couple guys at that spot. But we're certainly not going to just force picks because we need a player. Whether the public thinks that or we think that, I've been a part of doing that before. I've had a chance to be around guys like Ron Wolf in my career. They have all told me, my experience has told me, you do that, you just draft for need. You will draft guys way too early, and you'll regret it. And you'll watch other guys that you may have wished you took at a different position, have great careers, and you've been like, if I just would have done that. So to me, it's more about team building. What's best for the Raiders? How can we make this work? It's not about collecting talent, and it's not about just filling a roster out either.
The guaranteed money is out of his contract. So that may be coming to a head. Is that something that you feel like is going to get done here fairly soon? What are any of the discussions, the tone of the discussions?
I don't want to make any predictions or speak too much about that. I just would say I have an immense amount of respect for Max. Number one, the way he plays the game, the passion he plays with. This is what Pete and I have talked about. I mean, we want that to be what a Raider looks like, and he's a great shining example of that too. And he's also a really skilled and talented player on top of it too. So, I envision Max being a Raider for a long time here, and I think that's what he wants too. And we'll go forward with that in mind.
Four head coaches in your. How would you characterize the 4 head coaches in your division?
Oh, it's all really good. I mean, one of the greats of all time who I had a chance to work with in Philadelphia for 5 years and learn so much from, and my fellow Michigan man in LA who did us proud in Houston a couple years ago, and then Sean Payton, who we played against a ton when I was in Tampa and had some crazy battles. And so we have a tough division. It's not a secret, led by 3 really good head coaches and now a 4th really good head coach. And so I think it makes our division really interesting and exciting, and it's going to be all about competition, and there's going to be no easy games in our division.
Tim, what's up? How you doing? Good to see you too.
You guys work your way
reference a lot of the people you've worked with. What's it like to be the guy now calling the shots for a team?
Oh man, I don't think of it that way so much. I mean, I try to draw on the people that I've learned from, and listen, I got a dream job here with the Raiders. That's not a secret at all, but I'm grateful for where I'm at. I'm grateful for the trust given to me, and I want to do right by the ownership group, Mark Davis. I want to try to get as many good people in our building as we can, players, and we got a long way to go here, so I'm not too much caught up in that right now. It's been a great football journey, and I'm extremely grateful for every step along the way, the good and the bad. I wouldn't say bad, but the hard to get to me where I'm at. I'm grateful for it all, and just excited for what's ahead here.
This quarterback class.
Say again?
So what stands out to you about this quarterback class?
Got a lot of guys that have played a lot of good football. Some guys that have been through some adversity. The transfer portal is becoming more common. You got Cam Ward and Will Howard and a bunch of these guys that have kind of showed different levels of success at different places. And, they've all kind of risen to the challenge and made some programs, I think, that maybe haven't had the success recently, Colorado, Miami, that they are accustomed to having. And so I think you got to give your credit to those guys for being a part of that and doing that. And I'm looking forward to talking with a bunch of them this week and getting to know them better. I haven't had a chance to spend any time with any of them, and to me that's a hugely important part, maybe the most important part, especially at quarterback. We get a little bit caught up on how far they can throw it, and as opposed to how they think it and how they process it and how they lead it. So.
How do you know you need to give them more time?
Well, we kind of go back to, I've been a part of a couple of these. We kind of go back to our evaluation coming out and what we believe the player to be and the person to be, and then you kind of try to envision, like, does it work in our system? Will this play? Is it a good fit for the team that we're at? So the Raiders now, and you got to kind of trust your gut. Just because the guy didn't work somewhere with a different organization for whatever that is, good or bad. I think there's always an opportunity that if it's set up the right way at the place that you're at, then and you believe in it, that guy will feel that. Because a lot of times they haven't maybe been upset the right way. They don't feel like they've been believed in, and if you kind of breathe that life back into them, I think they've got a chance. And I'm grateful for a couple of them that have come along the way and helped me win a lot of games. I don't think that it was just last year. I think it's the kind of totality of his career. I mean, he's kind of always been at the forefront of offense. If you go back to like New Hampshire and Oregon and the way he pushed that forward, and with what he brought to the league when he was with the Eagles, and then I know how that went, but then he talked a lot about what he learned and where he's grown and his beliefs and how grateful he is to kind of go through the same stuff. And I think we just see a great offensive mind that he gets his quarterbacks to play well. I think you used Will Howard as an example last year. He had a couple tough moments, but Chip and Will found a way to play their best football when it mattered most. And you got to tip your cap to people that can do that.
How challenging is it for a guy like Curtis Rourke, who isn't going to be a player like Curtis Rourke who isn't going to be able to do anything physical because of the ACL? How does that challenge the evaluation process for him?
He had tape all year, so I mean, this is just a small part of it to me. I mean, to me, the most important thing that we're going to come back to from a football standpoint is always the film, and he's got plenty of that. I may give him a ton of credit. I mean, there's a lot of guys that would have shut it down this year, and he didn't do that. So, testament to him for that. Hold on a second. I'm going to get Mary Kay over here.
John, just wondering, what will be the chances of you possibly trading up for one of those quarterbacks, maybe Cam or Shador?
I don't know, Mary Kay. I mean, we're just getting started here. We're going to go through our process and figure out who's the best fit. We're just kind of getting started with stuff like that too. I mean, Pete and I are drinking from the fire hose pretty strong right now, and so we're going to get there. But I wouldn't rule out anything. I mean, I try to be an open-minded person, and if it makes sense for the Raiders, we'll do it, and if it doesn't, we won't. How often have I been talking to Tom? Tom and I stay in touch since I got this job. I mean, he's a very curious person, as you know, and he just kind of wants to know kind of what's going on now that the Super Bowl's ended and he has a little bit more time. He certainly has thoughts, which I appreciate. I'd be some kind of idiot if I didn't listen to what he thought about things too, but he kind of more approaches it just from what are we thinking? What do you think about this guy? I heard about this guy. I was watching this guy, and we just kind of bounce ideas off of each other, and it's a lot of fun.
given Matthew Stafford permission to talk to other teams. Is that something that you guys would be interested in, at least kicking the tires on and find out what that might look like?
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about other teams' players and get in trouble in my first press conference here, but I would just say that if there's an opportunity for any player that we think can add value to the Raiders, we'll look into it. AI? This is something that Mark and I in particular Mark Thuse and I have talked a lot about too, and when we're looking to kind of build that space out and assist any way it can, we've got an interesting ownership group where, there's some of them that kind of work in that tech space too, and so we're kind of just at the genesis of that and coming up with ideas, but I hope that it can be a big part of what we do to make us much more efficient.
You guys had a lot of success day 2 with some players that were seen as like unrefined. You think of like Sean Bunting and Jamel Dean have come in and have success. You didn't hit on everybody, but at what point do you kind of toe that line between this guy's a year away from being a year away and this guy, we can get this guy up and running early on?
Well, I mean, I don't want to call those guys unrefined. They played a bunch as rookies. I think it's just understanding the value of certain positions, the opportunity to select them. I mean, in Sean's place, Central Michigan, and Jamel's place, a couple of injuries. But yeah, I mean, we had home run balls. Like, I think really, if you look at that 2020 team, like the core of that team was really built in the second, third, and fourth rounds. Chris Godwin, Anthony Nelson. I mean, I could go on and on. So I think it's just about finding good football players that fit your team and fit what you want to be. And we had a great scouting department in Tampa with a lot of really great people, and we were able to find players that really helped us.
What's it like to have a guy like Pete Carroll around who's had some success in those later rounds and great drafts and success before, and this being kind of a new opportunity for you to spearhead this draft this year?
Yeah, it's awesome for me. I mean, the first time I was on the phone with him, I'm on the phone with Pete Carroll. I mean, we had some guys walk in last night, some young guys, and be like, this is MF and Pete Carroll right here. He loves football. He's so invested in it, and for me, getting started, like to have somebody like him to kind of lean on and be like, hey, just think about this. No, I hadn't thought about that. Well, this is what's coming. Well, he's got I don't want to date him, so 20 years, let's say 20 years of experience but he's got a lot of experience with it. It's just really, really reassuring to me that, he's supported me a lot. He's bouncing ideas off of me, and God, he's fired up to come to work every day. He's got me questioning my youth.
Scouting process, for older players is kind of developed. You mentioned the transfer portal, earlier here, and players moving from school to school, and COVID years are kind of ending, but that transfer portal is kind of growing, and players are staying because of NIL. So, what do you think is the challenges, scouting those older guys compared to the younger guys that may not have as much experience? I mean, it's just unique to where we're at right now in the kind of the football world. I mean, you got guys with 6th and 7th years, really, and so you've got to talk about a value of, are we going to have a problem with a 25 or a 26-year-old? Some people have more problems than that. Some teams do. I'm just looking for good football players, and I'm trying to impress upon that to our scouts too. Let's just find good football players. We'll figure it out. So I will say it's been really hard on the area scouts. You go into these schools like Georgia and Michigan and Ohio State, and they got a list of 30 guys that could potentially come out. That is slugging it out, and I don't think people appreciate that. And you don't know. It used to just be like, here's these 10 juniors, like maybe half of them come out. Now it's like you got a 4th year, 5th year senior, and he might take another year. So it adds a lot more names to it, and uncertainty, and a lot more work that has to get done in a finite amount of time. And that's why the scouts' jobs are so critical. To go through all that in an efficient way and present the players the right way we're relying on it, and it's critical to every organization.
One more question, guys. Another thing that's been changing in this draft, since the transfer rules change, there's less small school players invited to the combine. They all are transferring up. Yeah. How does that impact the scout's job, and is it harder to find maybe like a diamond in the rough than it used to be?
Yeah, I think it's been happening for a while. I think back to this is almost before I was born, but Walter Payton and Jerry Rice playing where they played. Technology's changed that. These guys don't go undiscovered anymore, and the ones that end up at the smaller schools, they have an easy avenue up right now. And there's compensation involved in that their schools can't compete with at the level they're at. For each kid, it's their own choice. We better be able to find players whatever level they're at. D3, we had a lot of success in Tampa. Ali Marpet, Alex Kappa. Maybe those guys transfer up now, maybe they don't. I give a lot of respect to the guys that stick it out with the school they're at and take a smaller NIL deal than they could have gotten if they would have transferred to the big one. To me, like, there's a loyalty and a quality to that human that really stands out. And there's a couple guys in this draft this year that kind of had the same opportunity. And when we drafted one in Tampa last year, Graham Barton, that could have gone and played for a lot more money. And I love Duke. I'll stay at Duke. And I'm not saying that's why we drafted him there, but I got a lot of respect for those guys that do that.
Last one, Vic. What are the biggest needs in your roster right now?
What are the biggest needs in a roster? Boy, Vic, heavy hitter on the last one. I'm gonna dance around this. We won 4 games last year, and we got to be realistic with that. And we've got a lot of really good young players. I think we've got some good veteran players, and we've just got to add quality humans and competitors to this roster wherever we can. And to me, that's the biggest thing, is like some guys that will do the harder thing longer than the person across from them, and we'll be in a good spot.
All right, thanks, guys.
Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.